Fantasy Football Universe. We are live today with another episode of the Devy Planet as I am joined with my co-host Spencer at Buckwald Sports and a very special guest, JT at JT Orange. We are here to speak about the top 25 matchups in today's college football and give you some Devy prospects that you need to watch out for all after the intro.
Welcome to the Devy Planet. The Devy Planet. The Devy Planet.
FFU, the Devy Planet, is here to help you understand what college football prospects you need to be watching out for in today's Saturday matchups. We are joined today by our guy JT at JT Orange. JT, how are you doing today?
Doing well, getting pumped for another Saturday football. It's kind of crazy with these Friday night games all of a sudden. Not used to them, but 4 of them last night. Able to watch a couple games. Just came up short on the parlay, 3 for 4, but it was another good night of football on Friday. Now we got a whole day of it here on Saturday.
Yeah, I had a parlay. I got lost when Connor Wyman had over like 37 rushing yards. He had like 70 in the first half or something, and I was like, all right, well, that's the end of that. So you win some, you lose some.
He busted a big one. He had like a 50 or 60 yarder in the first half that kind of killed all those. Those. I had Dean Connors and a bunch of that. Basically, I hit all my stuff other than Kansas State. Avery Johnson and Kansas State buried me. They were the ones that absolutely put me away.
I feel like they're going to be the ones that continue to put people away as well because we've seen it. We know it can happen, and it just doesn't happen in the times we wish.
Consistency is terrible.
Right. I know that's one of your guys there, Spencer, as far as Jace Brown there at Kansas State, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
It's not his fault.
But let's go ahead and start off with today's first matchup. I don't have banners here, so we're just going to talk about them. But number 4, Oregon at Northwestern. This one should be a blowout the way Oregon's been playing. They haven't been playing the same way they started off last year. They've been off hot, scoring multiple touchdowns. That Duck is doing all the push-ups he can right now. Earlier, I did see a post where it was like raining and everything there. It looks like it's going to be 66 degrees there in Northwestern, in Illinois. But what are y'all's thoughts on this game? I guess I'll ask really to you, JT. Is Dante Moore a Heisman candidate?
As long as Oregon wins and stays in it, he is. I mean, we've seen that. If they're in a top 5 most of the year, is your quarterback is even remotely good, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation if you're in the top 5. So as long as they stay there, which I think they will for now, especially this week, this is crazy, this Northwestern game. I live 2 hours south of Northwestern, like 2.5 hours. It's like 90 here today. It's like going to be 66 there. It's wild, like how much colder it is going to be. I saw the weather of this game. I was really surprised, but I think Oregon goes in there, wins pretty handily. Preston Stone for Northwestern has not been good so far.
Yeah.
They have too much firepower. I think it's 26.5, I think is the spread right now. I would take the over. I would take Oregon on that pretty handily. This team's got talent, man. I think they're good. If you're in the fantasy space, it's hard to figure out who's going to do what each week because they use so many guys. They've been so good. They've been using so many players. But this team is solid. I do think that Dante Moore is going to gain a little more steam as the year goes on. If he keeps playing well and they stay in the top 5, I think he's going to be in the mix.
And Spencer, I'll ask you just about it because we've talked about it multiple times already. 7 running backs are traveling with Oregon. What does that do with Mekhi Hughes? I know you and I have talked about him. He dropped off our top 25 player list for Devy rankings, but what does that say to you for Mekhi Hughes? Obviously, the talent's there, but I mean, are you completely cutting him off your Devy rosters, or is he a hold at this point?
So I think this is the game that you got to watch. Noah Whittington is going in with an injury designation, kind of popped up late. So I'd be surprised if he gets a lot of run today. You look at the spread, they're not really going to need him, which means Mekhi Hughes has an opportunity to really show out. And I think if he has another down game, like bad game, not much usage, comes in late, and they're rolling those freshmen in there again, and they're showing out.
Right.
like especially in your like five, you're rostering five guys in your Devy team,
Right.
which I think is pretty standard, like 5 to 7 per roster in a 10 to 12 man league. He's starting to drop off. I think you got to cut bait. I wouldn't cut bait in your C2Cs, and I'd maybe try to trade them, see if you can 2-for-1 package. Somebody might still believe, but I mean, we're getting to the point of the season where you're starting to see a sample size for the NFL draft. Like, there's only really 12 to 15 ish games every, 12 to 13 games you're going to get out of these guys.
Right.
So, we're approaching a good quarter of the season that NFL teams are going to be looking at.
For him, especially.
Yeah, no, and that's tough. So
I was going to jump in here. I can understand early on, like them going, okay, we don't, new guy, new system. Maybe we're not going to come out and hammer him early on. I can see that like week 1, maybe even week 2. But like, okay, guys, like by week 3, if we're still like, oh well, we're just trying to work him in the system, like we just don't, we want to save him for the end of the year. Like at some point, you're like, how far in the year you're like, okay, it's time to actually play him.
Yeah.
And if they don't play him, then you got to be like really nervous. I understood early on. They're like, oh, might not get a bunch of carries because we're way up against teams that we should dominate. And again, this is another game they should be way up and dominate. But like once you're like a quarter or a third of the way through the season, like holding a guy back doesn't make much sense to me. Like you either playing him or he's just not in your plans. And I think that Spencer's right. Like if it doesn't happen this week, like going into Oregon, like you're not going to take a guy like all of a sudden give him 20 carries against Penn State in 3 weeks, right? Like you get like, we gave him like 5 carries all year, but like now we're playing the tough teams, we're playing ranked opponents. Now we're going to get him in there. That to me, I don't see that at all.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And there was news out of Oregon this week, like kind of later in the week also, that Lanning was saying that the reason he hasn't seen the field, they were playing it a little close to the vest. Now he had a lot of trouble picking up the offense in the offseason. Like he wasn't learning the playbook. He wasn't understanding the zone read system that they run there. And Lanning runs a pretty NFL style offense. So if he's not picking that up, he's going to have a lot of trouble translating to the next level.
Right. No, sorry, Hall. We got a guy joining in here a little later.
Tommy coming in.
I'm going to add him to the screen here in just a second. Tommy, how you doing today, my guy? Oh, sorry. See there? Can you hear us, Tommy?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Okay, there you go.
How we doing? There we are.
You're good. Tommy, I'm gonna lead the 6. We just kind of talked about Oregon and Northwestern, so I'm gonna lead in with you. One, how are you doing today? Should ask that, I guess.
Man, I'm doing all right. I actually just woke up a little while ago, so
there you go. Was able to sleep in. Love it. But I do want to ask you, because number 12 Clemson plays at Georgia Tech. Clemson is 1-1. Cade Klubnik has not been showing out as of late. If they lose this game, does he drop on Devy rankings for you?
Not necessarily. I just think that this offense is a little bit broken right now. I'm not sure what's really going on with it, but it's not looking good. But I don't necessarily think that it's Klubnik's fault. I think it's more play calling. Honestly, they just haven't really looked explosive. I don't think that's really on him. I think that's more along the lines of the play calling situation.
So
that they don't really have a running game. So I mean that pressure is really all on Klubnik.
So with that, it could be play calling for sure, but at what point? Because I don't see Dabo necessarily getting the boot this year, unless maybe if they lose 7 in a row or something. But at what point does Klubnik necessarily drop if we're just not seeing that? Like, does that impact his ranks at all moving forward if they're just not getting it done then?
I mean, I think he has to look bad individually. He hasn't necessarily looked bad. He's not making bad decisions. He's not turning the ball over. I just think that offense is just really stagnant.
Okay. Now, JT, I'm going to ask you because on the Devy Planet on Wednesday nights, we always have our homework for each other. This is a game that Spencer asked me to tune in, and he says, is TJ Moore a fast fade? Is it starting that we need to fade TJ Moore after his good freshman season?
This is an interesting with the struggles they've had with Klubnik. it's like we had all these Devy wideouts that we loved for Clemson. Now we're all of a sudden it's like, okay, Antonio Williams has been bagged up. DJ Moore's been like, yeah, okay. Brian Westcott's been okay. And so I mean, this team for Devy purposes, they really need to start cranking it up, or you got to start worrying about a lot of these guys as far as where their draft guy would be, especially Antonio Williams, the guy that's been around for a while. I think he's settling on his last year eligibility. So, like, if he doesn't get back and get him going up, you got to start worrying about where you have him ranked for your 2026 class. I'm not out on the younger guys just yet because it has been a team problem, I think, more than those guys. It's not like they've looked horrible, but you do start getting nervous for how much these guys are going to be worth future, especially if you're trying to move them, unless they start picking it up here pretty soon.
For sure. And I know, Georgia Tech is 2-0. They have Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, two dominant Haynes players there. Spencer, I'm going to ask you, what is the key to the game for Clemson to win this game?
They need to get that pass offense going early because Tech is going to run them down. So, Clemson hasn't been very good at the running game at all. I mean, they haven't, Randall has looked bad. Eziamume and Davidson have been pretty absent also. So if they can't get that explosive passing offense figured out and jump out early to a lead, I think Tech is going to hang around, and they have a team that's better equipped to win a hang-around game. So that's going to be the big thing that Clemson has to do to avoid the upset here.
Now, speaking of a running game, let's flip it over to a quarterback that has impressed in his running ability because he's been able to escape the pocket and evade the pressure when he needs to just make it done and make the big plays for his team. That's going to be Oklahoma's number 13th ranked John Mateer, quarterback there. They're playing against Temple, who is also 2-0. Tommy, let me ask you, is Deion Burks a Devy asset?
Probably more along the lines of a early day 3 guy. There's a guy that I'm actually getting, a little bit higher and higher on that I've kind of jumped him to be more of a late day 2 guy. We'll get into that a little bit later probably, but I'll just go and throw his name out, Skylar Bell. Okay. But Deion Burks to me is, he's fine. He, kind of a smaller guy, more gadgety, honestly, to me. I don't really look at him as being a big time pro prospect. A lot of it's honestly because, his inability to really stay on the field. He's had multiple issues with injury over the last couple of seasons. And honestly, I don't see him being more than just a guy, honestly.
Just a jag.
Yeah, he'll make a team. He'll just be a desk guy, honestly, though, in my opinion.
Okay. Fair. Now, Spencer, I'll ask you because John Mateer has been lining up for Oklahoma. At least that's the way it's looked. As we talked about earlier on Wednesday, the SEC matchup comes next week because that's Auburn. But this week they do have Temple, who are 2-0 as well. But what is Mateer doing that makes him talk in the Heisman list so far?
So I think that what he's been doing is just the all-around game. In playing winning football, like he's carrying the load on the ground. He's running the heck out of the ball. He's making it happen through the air. And he just, I honestly, I think the reason that he's a front runner right now isn't because he's been playing out of his mind, but because all of the other front runners have been playing so poorly. So he's kind of, if you look at him, like he's played really well. He's been really fun to watch, but like if he's got to keep that up versus the SEC competition in order to make it happen, or the other guys just need to keep playing poorly, and it's because it's a quarterback award that I think he's really the front runner right now.
Fair. No, I absolutely love that. I think so too. I think there's talks for him to, as I said, in the Heisman consideration. I'm just gonna ask this one question to you here, JT, and then we'll move on to the next game, which I'll lead into for you as well. But is John Mateer a first-round draft pick?
At this moment, I don't think he is. I thought he played really well last week. I know I was on the show 2 weeks ago, and I said, hey, man, I really need to see it out of him this year, like to impress me and move him up. right now, he's still got the look of a really, really good college quarterback. I'm not 100% sure he translates to the NFL as a first rounder. Now,
Okay.
obviously, I can be wrong on that. I'm still going to keep an eye on him throughout the year. I agree. What you guys said. I think he's the front runner just because he's looked the best and had the most highlight moments, and everybody
Right.
else has been very okay and against harder schedules. But
Right.
if he keeps this up throughout the whole SEC, like he'll be in the mix. But like right now, I got to see it against some really good teams before I'm totally sold on it. I think he's playing well,
Yeah.
but is he going to end up going down in history as one of those guys like, man, what a year he had in
Yeah.
college? And it's more like, oh man, just remember how awesome he was in college, kind of type of player.
Johnny
And
Manziel
right
type
now,
player.
that's the vibes I'm getting right now. But
No.
if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to probably change my mind.
Flipping
Yeah,
the
it's kind of
script. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's kind of what me and you were talking about on Monday was him proving his overall legitimacy as far
Yeah.
as being a big time as far as being a big time player in big time moments playing
Right.
against big time teams. He kind of took a step forward in that going against Michigan, but can he continue that moving into the SEC?
Right, and like we said, next week, week 4, they play Auburn, who is number 24. Then they get a break again at Kent State. Then they have an arsenal. They play Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU to finish the season. So if he comes out undefeated there, we're gonna be having different discussions. But to y'all's point, we need to see that actually happen for him and then what he's gonna do. Because we know he can win games, but can you win in those big time moments? Now, on the flip side, a quarterback that hasn't been bad, but also hasn't been necessarily great. Ty Simpson out of Alabama, 480 yards, 5 touchdowns. This week they play 2-0 Wisconsin. They are in Tuscaloosa there. But I want to ask here, and I'll ask you, JT, here. Is Jerry Bernard a Devy asset? Because we know Ryan Williams was banged up. Jerry Bernard seems to have taken that role of the primary wide receiver there for him. Has almost half the yards that Ty Simpson has with 213 and 2 touchdowns. What are your thoughts on Bernard? Is he someone that needs to be on Devy boards?
Yeah, I like Bernard. I've actually got him in a couple Devy leagues. So I definitely think he has a shot to take a big leap this year. I know some people were on him at the beginning of last year, him trying to kind of figure out the system there. I wasn't big on any wideout other than Ryan Williams because of Milroe last year. He wasn't making a lot of those guys look better. I think he has a chance to keep moving up because, again, you're Alabama. If you're the number one wideout on Alabama that's throwing more than they used to in the past, you're going to have to be somewhere in the Devy conversation. And the longer that Ryan Williams is out, the more it gives him a chance to kind of be that guy and get the looks and get the, the attention. So I like him. If you ask me, would I rather have him over Deion Burks? Like 100%. I would drop
Sure.
Deion Burks right now and go, well, is Bernard out there? I want Bernard over
Sure.
Burks, like easily for me. So I think this is a really nice opportunity for him. I think we saw last week Ty Simpson, obviously an easier opponent, but like looked really solid. Can he keep that up? I think Bama plays really well today at home against Wisconsin, to be honest with you. I think they kind of put it to the Badgers, and I think Simpson has a good game, and I think Bernard I'd probably jump on, if you're looking on the player props, I'd probably jump on the over for both those guys and probably think about taking a touchdown anytime TD for Bernard because I do like him today.
Fair. I absolutely love that. I think Bernard's an asset. I think I was talking to you, Tommy, that he's definitely the player you want to watch, that he's going to overtake that role for Ryan Williams. People were sleeping on him, and so far he has. We'll see how the season ends up playing out. I do want to move on because we are about almost halfway through, so I want to make sure we get through our top 25 there. But Central Michigan plays at Ann Arbor, plays number 23 Michigan. Tommy, I'm going to leave this one off to you because Justin Haynes, we both talked about Jordan Marshall being the potential RB1 there. Justin Haynes has seemed to be running away with it, 284 yards and 4 touchdowns. What are your thoughts on him? Has he surprised you so far with the first 2 weeks of college football?
Yeah, I've been really surprised with the lack of usage from Jordan Marshall. Honestly, I kind of expected it to be a little bit more split, but so far I think it's been about 65-35. In favor of Justice Haynes, which as long as he can keep it up, sure. I mean, he's kind of showing what everybody thought he was coming in to college, right? He was a big time 5-star prospect. that really underperformed last year in the Alabama offense. How much of that was kind of attributed to having that kind of run first quarterback? How much of it was contributed to having a stable of running backs there also? But he's kind of taken off here in his sophomore season at Michigan, to where he can now, in my opinion, be looked at as being a legitimate Devy prospect.
Fair. Spencer, I'll leave it to you. Do you agree with that on Justin Haynes? Or do you think as the season progresses, we're going to see more involvement from Marshall or even potentially Bryce Underwood?
No, Haynes is a weird one because when you watch him down to down, he looks pretty jag 90% of the time. And then that 10% of the time he makes a special play happen. And that's sort of what he's been doing is he's breaking off a 75, 80-yard rush once, twice a game. Last week was a really good example of that against a tougher competition in Oklahoma, where it was, I think he had 80 plays, 80 yards on one play, and then he had like 35 on 18 other carries. Which is, an NFL team might get tired of that. So that's my main concern with him, especially like Oklahoma isn't exactly the best defense in the world. So, but today against Central Michigan, I would assume he's going to smash. He always seems to beat up these like lesser competition games. He just eats it up. So, this isn't the week I think we're going to test him. But Jordan Marshall, his vision has looked really rough. I mean, he's making the wrong read at the line of scrimmage almost every time. He's getting banged, 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and getting back to it. So he needs to work on planting the foot, finding the right hole, and going. Because the contact balance, the power, strength is special with him. But I don't know. It hasn't carried over from last year, like that end of year run that he had. It hasn't looked like the same guy so far. So that's the worry there.
Fair. No, I think he is so need to be considered. He definitely has the speed, as you mentioned, kind of that. It's going to take a while, but he does end up breaking out big plays here and there within Michigan's games there. I will move on to our next game here, though, which is going to be South Alabama at Auburn. And Tommy, I'm going to ask you here because we talked about John Mateer being viable, so that could potentially be a good Devy asset. Why are we not talking about Jackson Arnold enough? 359 yards, 77% completion, just below 78% completion, 3 touchdowns, 142 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns as well. Is Jackson Arnold starting to get in that conversation again? Because once before at Oklahoma, before last year, he was considered one of your top college quarterbacks as far as Devy prospects. Kind of slid away. Is he someone we need to be looking at once again? What are your thoughts, Tommy?
I still have him on the back burner. He's not pushing the ball downfield enough. You said he had 359 yards passing so far this year. Yeah. That's not nearly enough. He's got big time downfield weapons that they're just not pushing it down the field enough. In my opinion, he's a really good runner, but he's not. He's not looking downfield to Cam Coleman and Singleton and Simmons and all those big time weapons he has. Everything kind of seems to be kind of short and intermediate. And to me, that just doesn't work as far as moving to the next level.
And I had Cam Coleman as a wide receiver 2 in that 2027 class behind Jeremiah Smith, who has 8 receptions, 100 yards, no touchdowns. JT, I'm asking you about Cam Coleman. Are we concerned about him, or to Tommy's point, it's just a lack of pushing the dog downfield for a quarterback like Jackson Arnold?
Yeah, I'm not worried about him. I still think he has the talent. I think sometimes we can get a little wrapped up in stats. I know I do. I'm a big stats guy, but sometimes like the stats aren't telling you the whole story. In Auburn, new quarterback, I definitely think they were playing a little closer to the vest here in the early going, trying to like maintain, making sure they're not turning the ball over, not taking a ton of risks. I think as the SEC schedule gets harder, they're going to have to try to open it up a bit to make big plays in games that they're not favored like they are right now. I think you're going to see more from Cam Coleman. But I guess for me, I never expect the Auburn offense to be like super wide open. So I kind of always have like my expectations are always a little bit, dulled for wide receivers in that program, just because I know the guys have talent, but I just never expect to see huge numbers out of guys. So I guess it's not as much shock to me because I kind of expect it just from the way that they're set up.
Well, let's flip the script here. I'm gonna leave this with you, JT, because I feel like a team that is better than what many may have expected is your guys, the Missouri Tigers. 2-0 right now. They play against Louisiana. Bo Perbola, Mark Harvey, Calvin Coleman, all looking phenomenal. Talk to us a little bit about that trinity that Missouri has right now.
Yeah, I mean, this, if you're a Missouri fan, I don't think they could have got off to a better start for you. I mean, almost everybody knew. I mean, literally, Norfleet's been there, but he's been banged up. Marquise Johnson's been there, but he's been kind of the third, fourth wideout. So you really did have a pretty new system and new players everywhere. And kind of figure out, okay, you expected them to win, but the fact that they won the way that they've won the first couple weeks I think is what is impressive. I mean, obviously you got to win the opener, but they looked dominant in a 61-6 game. They gave up 6 with like 30 seconds left of the game. And then making the big comeback after not necessarily a great start against Kansas. I think Kansas is pretty good. That's obviously a monster rivalry. So that game's usually going to be close no matter what, especially when these teams haven't played each other in 15 years. So I was expecting that one to be close. The fact that they got down early, two scores, 2 touchdowns, and still came back and won by 11 and kind of really handled Kansas late, I think was impressive. I think if Missouri can do the same thing this week against Louisiana and really dominate, it's going to set up for a monster matchup with South Carolina. I mean, I think that game is going to be huge in a week, and we're going to see a lot of Devy assets in that game. And I think for Devy purposes, you're going to see a lot more eyes on that one because you're going to go, okay, both these teams will look pretty good. They got a lot of guys we like, a lot of guys with NFL potential. What do they look like against someone else that's in the same kind of boat as them? And I think it's a big one in the SEC because whoever wins that game takes a huge step forward this year in that league. Whoever loses it is like, oh, now you're playing from behind. Now you're going to have to up somewhere else, somebody else along the way. But I tell you what, Bo Pibola, if you were worrying about him at QB, like he has definitely won the job. It's no doubt it's his. He's looked phenomenal. Coleman's looked good. Marquise Johnson's looked good. Norfleet, I know we don't really get into Devy guys as far as tight ends a lot, but Norfleet's a guy you need to have your eyes on. I think he's just if he hasn't been banged up the last couple of years, I think a lot more people be talking about him because he's been really good when he's played, and he showed it here in the early part of the season. And then Hardy, a guy that like for Devy purposes, we're like, I don't really know where to take him because obviously that's a big jump up to the SEC. But so far he's looked really solid. I'm not sold on him as a Devy asset just yet. But I really like him for college. I really like him for college.
So I was gonna lead into that. I appreciate you telling me that because I feel I was higher. I had him. I think it was RB6 overall with it, and obviously competition such for Arkansas, Kansas. He plays Louisiana, South Carolina. Bigger matches will come in. He has shown exactly what we saw at Louisiana Monroe, though. Just that he has the contact balance, he has the speed that can break away, leading the team right now with 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Spencer, I know he kind of hit. He doesn't necessarily see other Devy asset. You know me pretty well as far as my rankings for him. What are your thoughts on Ahmad Hardy so far?
Yeah, he's looked better than I expected, honestly. Like he's it hasn't been the hardest competition, but he's transitioned to the system perfectly. We haven't really seen a lot of the pass catching, which is what you wanted to see him step up in. But as a runner, I mean, he's continued the tackle breaking, tackle avoiding ways that he had down in Louisiana Monroe. Right. I think he truly is a true Devy asset. I think he should be rostered, and even your 5-spot 10-team Devy leagues, I think he's a top 50 asset for sure. He looks great. Probably that 2027 running back class is all over the map. I see no reason why if he keeps this up, why we can't consider him to be the RB1 of that year, honestly.
Okay. Love it. Absolutely love it.
I love that I've lowest thought him as a Missouri fan because it makes me feel better because I didn't want to get like my knees over my toes, get like a little out ahead because I have liked what I've seen out of him, but I'm like cautiously optimistic. I'm like, I'm hoping this means he can have like a crazy season.
Yeah. Like I said, he's my RB6 in Devy overall. But I do want to say, speaking of running backs, Tommy, I'll let you start with this one because Penn State has a duo of running backs that we've honestly, since they've been in the league since their freshman year, we've been going back and forth on who is the better running back, who do you want. So far at Penn State, Katron Allen has shown the more explosiveness with 187 yards, 2 touchdowns compared to Nicholas Singleton. They both had similar carries. Nick Singleton has 95 yards and 3 touchdowns, though. How are you feeling about this? Are you uneasy about it, or is it like this is Penn State? They use both their running backs. Is Katron Allen slowly moving up your ranks, or is Nick Singleton slowly moving down? How are you feeling about this split right now?
I kind of mentioned it last week that I thought last week was going to be a Katron Allen volume day, and it kind of was. They kind of go back and forth with who gets more of the load, based on the type of defenses they're playing, on the type of plays that they got to call, whether it's a zone, whether it's a straight smash, and again, it's really what's going to determine their value is what team they land on. Running backs kind of have that landing spot. They're highly their value is determined based on their landing spot.
Right.
Nobody expected Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be the RB1, several years ago whenever he was drafted.
Right.
J.K. Dobbins was the best back in that class, in my opinion. But it all mattered on landing spots. So that running back position is very very dependent, just upon that. So it really depends on what NFL teams see in them. It doesn't really matter what we see in them, honestly. Running back is very volatile, that aspect.
Right. And we've seen it where they go to a running back by committee and they just end up not showing up because they're in that committee approach, and that could be something where Singleton goes to it, and then Katron Allen goes to a place where he's behind Derrick Henry, and next thing you know, he's the next Derrick Henry potentially, right? So,
well I mean, it's like last year whenever Braylon Allen wasn't taken to the 5th round or something like that. It's like nobody expected that. Everybody expected him to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. And then all of a sudden he drops all the way down to the 5th round behind Breece Hall. And it's like, well, his value just really disappeared.
Right, for sure. And that could happen between Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, even though both players are dynamic. That is Penn State's offense in a sense. We'll talk about a little bit about Drew Aller. Spencer, I'll let you answer this one. Drew Aller, 69.5% completion, 3 touchdowns, 417 yards. We've always knew Penn State passing offense isn't necessarily there. What do you want to see from Drew Aller to elevate him to a potential first-round pick, or is that already too late? He's not a first-round pick.
I think he is a first-round pick, honestly, just on the traits and like he's been playing a very safe game manager role. What I want to see is him to become a high first-round pick, going downfield and making connecting. I don't know that Penn State has the personnel to support that, but they should. They made additions this offseason to their wide receiver room, guys that have gone downfield at other places. So that's what I want to see, is just consistency downfield. He's always been a pretty good short intermediate passer, accurate, generally collected. He crumbles in big games, but outside of big games where he crumbles, he's been pretty good. So but he hasn't made that splash play in God knows how long. So either that or adding a little rushing, I think, would elevate him to a first round stock. He has the ability to do both, the raw traits to do both. He just doesn't seem to want to do it. So you worry about maybe downfield processing with him.
Right. Size does matter in the game. The big games do matter and how you perform in those.
Yeah.
Let's lead into here. Tommy, I was gas JT, but I realized the next game we're talking about is actually your Volunteers. They're no longer volunteering, though. They're stepping up to be, legitimate. Number 15, Tennessee, hosting number 6, Georgia. Joey Aguilar's looking great. Nico Adamovia played last night. But they're 1-2, I think, or 0-3 actually. They might be. UCLA. But you're a Tennessee guy. Talk to us about the keys to the matchup for Tennessee to win, and who becomes a Devy asset right now in Tennessee, if there are any.
Well, we're about to see how real they are today. They looked decent against Syracuse. They looked really good last week against ETSU. But we're about to see how good they are today. As far as the Devy asset goes, Chris Brazzell looks a lot like what Dante Thornton looked like. And then Mike Matthews is really explosive. He just kind of has to go up and make those plays. Against Syracuse, he left a lot of plays on the field in that Syracuse game, but they kind of made up for it last week. So, and then Braylon Staley also, pretty good slot receiver there. But running back wise, I'm not sure how much they have in the Devy tank there. Peyton Lewis, maybe. I just don't see Star Thomas or Deshaun Bishop being next level guys. Peyton Lewis, as far as build has that. But again, he kind of has to show it on the field also. But I think what you're looking at more along the lines is like Chris Brazzell and Mike Matthews.
Okay. Fair, absolutely love it. JT, I'll ask you this about Georgia because he kind of filled us in with Tennessee. Georgia's number 6, they're 2-0. Gunnar Stockton is there. We know Zachariah Branch is there, Nate Frazier. However, I mean, it hasn't looked necessarily explosive in my eyes. I know they had a big play with Zachariah Branch. Is he back on boards for Devy rankings, or I still need to see more from Branch there?
I think you need to see a little more, but I also think it's going to be a little difficult. I just don't think this Georgia offense is going to be explosive this year. I think they're going to win a lot of games, but I see this team leaning heavy into the defense and going, hey, we've seen this work before. We've seen our defense dominate, and our offense has just got to do enough. So I think it's very hard for Devy purposes to really look at this offense and get a good feel for these guys. I think Frazier's been good at running back, but beyond him, there's a ton of guys we've liked the last couple of years, and now they're like, I mean, you haven't heard from them. A lot of these guys have transferred. They're not crushing it at the places they transferred to. So you're like, it's like maybe we were a little high on some of these guys. I mean, there's both the Robinsons and some of these other guys. I mean, Josh McCray, as an Illinois guy, man, what just murdered himself going to Georgia. I don't know what he was thinking with that. He is non-existent where he would be seeing really nice playing time at Illinois on a team that's ranked in the top 15. So I mean, 3 carries for 5 yards in 2 games. And if you're going to play games, you figure the early games is where you'd see a little more time. They've got everybody touching the ball in the backfield there. So if you're on Branch and you like the talent, I should say I would probably stick with him. If you're nervous and somebody else still really likes him, then I could see moving him because I don't see him by the end of the year. Like wherever he's at in your rankings, I think he probably stays there. I don't think he really makes any kind of huge leap. I just don't see that kind of season because of this offense. I don't see it. So if you really like him, I say hold. If you're nervous, try to trade him because I don't think that to me, unless something insane happens, it's hard to see his value rising the rest of the year, I think.
Fair. I obviously agree with that. Georgia's, like I said, they're looking good for college as far as bang it out as we wanted to. It's just that explosiveness isn't necessarily there. But let's lead into our next one. Oregon State versus Texas Tech. Malik Murphy on his 3rd team now, but is leading right now, 615 yards, 4 touchdowns. Texas Tech has a nice freshman running back in Adam Hill with 205 yards. Spencer, I'll ask you, is Malik Murphy a Devy asset, considering he has a cannon of an arm, but maybe that's it? Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's a Devy asset in your XFL Devy leagues. No, he's got nothing there. No, it's like he's got a lot of good tools, but the between the ear stuff, it's never really lined up. He turns the ball over too much. He holds the ball way too long. He runs when he's not supposed to. He holds it when he shouldn't. Like he just doesn't have that like quarterback itch to him. So, he's probably going to make like a UDFA kind of move, I imagine, similar to what we saw from DJU this year, where he finds a home to sit and play on the practice squad, but not meaningful. But the name you mentioned, Adam Hill, Adam Hill is very interesting because we had Jacoby Williams and their other running back there stepping up after Joyner went down. And Adam Hill's actually been the one who stepped up, really explosive looking, decisive runner. I almost wonder if he should be on our radar as like kind of a watch list guy. See if he keeps this momentum up because he's shown some traits. True freshman. He's shown. I think he's true freshman. He might be redshirt. I don't know enough about him honestly. Like this is he sort of came out of nowhere. As the third guy in the room, who's now the first guy in the room. So he's definitely worth a watch, I think, in your Devy leagues. And in your C2C, if he hasn't been picked up already, I would run to the waivers to try to add him before games today.
Yeah, no, he actually is someone that has stepped up a lot and actually is showing that he might be the leader for the team moving forward as well. Now, Iowa State, Rocco Beck, we've talked about him as well, 3-0, number 14, playing Arkansas State. Tommy, I'll ask you about Rocco Beck. Is he a quarterback that you're going to be taking a shot on in Devy leagues? I don't see him necessarily as a first round, but I could see him as day 2 pick. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, he actually reminds me a lot of another Iowa State quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Doesn't have a huge arm, just kind of gets it done though. Somehow, some way, just kind of gets it done. Now that just could be a Matt Campbell thing,
Right.
but kind of very similar traits to what Brock Purdy has.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love it.
nobody thought Brock Purdy was really anything, which is why he was Mr. Irrelevant. So, I mean, potentially, but again, with guys like that, you just never know until they get the opportunity inside the NFL.
Okay. I mean, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, super relevant now for San Francisco, right? So I absolutely love that. We talked about Hansen there as well, 136 yards. Didn't really had his big game, has been just lately. The ghost of Chase Shule hasn't really been there as well. It's Eskadilson that's leading. I don't know if I said that last name correct, but 7 receptions, 162 yards, and 1 touchdown. Iowa State should run away with this, just as Texas, number 7, should run away with this matchup against UTEP. Texas, Arch Manning, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. At what point do we question Arch? I don't feel we were questioning him quite yet, right? 1-1 through 2 games. At what point do we question him? JT, I'll ask you that. At what point do you start to question Arch being the QB1 that a lot of people have him as?
I mean, we had to kind of expect a little bit of this, right? I mean, he was getting talked up so much. It was like there was almost nothing he could do outside of throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns every game without people start going, oh, maybe were we too high on him? Because everybody was so high on him. That first game was disappointing, but I mean, holy crap, dude. We might look at the end of the year and be like, man, Ohio State's the best defense in the nation. So it's like, yeah, your first start like that, and you're going against Ohio State. I mean, that makes it tough. So I think people way overreacted on that. I think Ohio State's going to make a ton of quarterbacks look bad this year. So I was like, man, the hype is people just going nuts. I thought he was solid last week. I think he's going to continue to improve. I'm probably, and maybe I'm one of those crazy people too, but I just think he stays another year. I just came out for DLF. I just came out with my first round mock for next year. And I basically at the very beginning of the article said, I don't have Arch Manning in here because I don't think he comes out this year. I think he stays for another year. So, especially with the NIL money and everything else and his family, they're in all honesty, there's zero rush for him to try to get the NFL, especially if the Browns have the top pick. I can't even imagine them wanting him to be in Cleveland. So, I could see him going back again. I'm not worried. I still think there's time. I knew there was going to be some ups and downs this year. So I guess I'm just blocking out that noise going, hey, man, he's got to have some time to really grow and learn. I still believe in him. I still think he ends up being the number 1 in 2027.
Okay. I just want to point out, Spencer, you mentioned go get Adam Hill if he's on your waiver. So a lot of my leagues he was. The one league he wasn't was the Devy Superstar League, which you are in, and guess who has him? Spencer has him. So thanks for that one. But Tommy, I'll ask you as well.
A man of my word.
The wide receiver room in Texas, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, they haven't been living up to par as far as what we've thought. are we concerned about their Devy value? I mean, CJ Baxter, you're on the money with that if he's there. We kind of hit on this as well with Parker Livingstone kind of leading the way so far. Are we concerned about these wide receivers as a Devy aspect right now?
Yeah. I mean, I need to see more from Wingo as far as a separation standpoint.
Right.
He's not getting any, man.
Yeah.
And that's really hurting Arch Manning, is that his supposed number one receiver can't get open, and then
Right.
his supposed number two receiver hadn't even seen the field yet.
Right.
In Emmett Mosley, and then they really haven't done anything with the freshmen yet, as far as Lockett and French. So, I mean, they've been trotting out Parker Livingstone, who's just a plotter. No real athleticism there. He's just tall and can go over the top and catch a ball. So, I mean, yeah, Wingo is taking a bit of a hit right now. He's got to learn to be able to get open.
Yeah.
I think with
agree.
a lot of these Texas guys, you got to be ready to wait for next year. I know people had him in the national championship mix this year. I really think this Texas team is set up to be a really good team next season if they can get all these guys to stay, not transfer out, do all that. I think Texas in 2026 is going to be the team that everybody's got their eyes on. I think it has a shot for a lot of these Devy guys to really rise up next year. I think it's going to be a little iffy this year. I'm with Tommy. I probably am lower on Wingo than almost anyone.
Maybe not Spencer.
I don't know. I just haven't seen it yet. I saw him a lot in high school, being from the St. Louis area, and Missouri recruiting him insanely hard, like a lot of other people did. So maybe that's my hate of him not going to Mizzou. But I haven't seen it out of him yet. I need to see a lot more improvement before he jumps way up my Devy list. He's down for me on wide receivers right now.
Now, something, you talk about Texas, we got to wait for next year. We were so hyped. That's what hype does, right? It builds you up. And that's where we were talking about that with Arch being so hyped right now, he has the most to lose if it doesn't pan out in this year. Like, if he doesn't, I hate to say this, but if they don't get to a playoff bye week or even potential of a national championship, his value is potentially going to drop heavily because we raised it up so high. He has the furthest drop from not being great. But let's go on the flip side about another game that's going to be exciting to watch. A team that I don't think any of us really expected to be good. University of South Florida, number 18, came in to beat Florida last week. Now plays against Miami, number 5. Byron Brown is a legitimate college quarterback. Spencer, is he a Devy quarterback, though?
Probably not. His arm just isn't quite NFL caliber, but a good backup, I think, probably, like, especially if he keeps winning these games coming out. Like, the fact that he's such a gamer, I think, is going to make a lot of NFL teams want to take him in, 6th, 7th round, get him in their room as a backup. Probably, he's not really, I wouldn't have him on your Devy rosters, you really want a first round college, or first round NFL prospect. Maybe right. That early day 2 NFL prospect with the rushing upside, like your John Mateers.
Right.
But then Brown doesn't quite fit that. But I'll be damned if this isn't a great story. I mean, this is the battle for Florida potentially. Yeah. They're like the meme with the Grim Reaper going through the doors.
Yeah.
Like
Byron Brown instead of the Reaper.
Yeah, Brian Brown is the Reaper. If they take out Miami this week, they've won the battle for Florida. Yeah. And nobody had that coming. This is a more uphill battle than Florida last week, but
for sure.
I mean, it's fun.
Tommy, I'll ask you here. Florida or Miami is player minus 17.5. Are you taking that?
No shot am I taking that. South Florida looks like they have a pretty decent enough defense to be able to contend there. Yeah. And with Byron Brown, they offensively, they're going to be able to keep it close there too. I'm kind of like Spencer. I don't see Byron Brown as being much of a Devy asset. He's a big, strong guy. As far as a runner, he's just not much of a passer. Right. And I think we're seeing more of what we wanted Carson Beck to be. Spencer's kind of made the point. He is kind of a knucklehead, but if he can kind of get past that, he has first round talent.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I absolutely love it. I mean, JTR, ask you this before we move on to the next game. Mark Fletcher, 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's been one of my guys since his high school day at American Heritage. Any thoughts on him? Is he someone that you think should be a Devy prospect, or is he more of a day 3 running back?
I think he's a guy that can move up. I think right now you're probably talking day 3 with him, but I like where he's at. I think he's a really good player. I took him in a ton of C2C leagues just because I was like, I thought he's going to give me pretty good production. And I'm like,
Right.
man, if he could be a 4th or 5th round hit where he ends up in a decent spot, like he's a guy that I feel like probably starts his career as a backup, but like
Mhm.
he could be one of those guys. All he needs is a chance. You know, he gets a
Right.
back behind a guy, and a guy gets hurt week 3, and he gets in there, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, why were we talking more about this guy? He's a stud. So I definitely
Right.
like him. Obviously, if you're in a short Devy, I probably wouldn't have him in my Devy at all. If you're in one with a bigger unit, or like, you know, you're in a league where you could get 10, 15 guys, I would take him in that scenario because I think he's worth a shot. I definitely think he's probably not going to go real high in the draft, but we've seen, at least especially the last couple of years, man, 4th, 5th round isn't a death sentence anymore. Like for running backs, you
Right.
could still be in the mix. So I think he's kind of in that range, and with a good landing spot, I like him. I think he has a chance to keep improving, especially if Miami keeps showing up. I
Right.
think he's going to get a little more look. I could be bold though. I mean, I loved Damian Martinez, and he fell all the way to the 7th round. But I do think
Yeah.
Fletcher maybe has a little more wiggle than Damian Martinez had.
Love it, love it. No, I do think Fletcher's a little bit stronger, and can make if he gets the workhorse role type of there. Tommy, I'm gonna ask you this question. Our guy Scott Kolb joined in the chat. Sorry, JT, I'm gonna cover your face here for just a second. Do you guys think Nico at UCLA was this bad, or do you think he can lead UCLA out of the doldrums? Tommy, what are your
No,
thoughts?
UCLA doesn't have any talent around him. He looked okay last year just because he had a good offensive line, or good-ish offensive line, had a really good running game, but he has nothing around him at UCLA. The guy can't read defenses very well. He's not a good processor, and he doesn't understand the concept of choice routes. There was a story I heard a couple weeks ago that whenever he first got to campus at Tennessee was there was a play called in practice for a hitch route, but the defense was playing kind of press coverage, so that in Tennessee's offense that turned that dig route or hitch route into kind of more of a go route. And he didn't understand that, and he threw the hitch, and it got picked off. And he's like, and he came back and he said, "I didn't know that the route could change." I was like, man, I mean, I guess that's what kind of happens whenever you're really just a 7-on-7 hero, and you play volleyball in the off season, and you don't understand the nuances of football.
Right.
So you know that to me was really telling whenever I heard that story a couple weeks ago about him. I was like, man, that's a major red flag.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot that needs to come and play with him moving forward. And we knew it was going to be struggles at UCLA there anyways. Somewhere that has been struggling, just hasn't been the fireworks we wanted. Ohio State 2-0, number 1 against the Ohio Bobcats. Julian Sayans, Spencer, thoughts on him as a debut prospect. 5 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 432 yards, 31 completions out 39 attempts. He's not necessarily pushing the ball down the field as much as I felt like we wanted him to. But at the same time, he's also not necessarily doing anything bad where it's like, he's not someone I'm looking at. So what are your thoughts on Julian Sayans?
Yeah, I don't think he's pushing the ball downfield because I don't think he can. It's not really his game. His arm strength isn't there. I mean, you saw the throw to Cardinal Tate in week 1 where it was probably 20 yards underthrown, and Tate worked his way back to it to make that play happen. I think that if you like, it's he's a solid late day 2 guy. Early day 3.
Thanks for joining, Jamie.
That's who Tate is. Yeah,
For sure.
but I mean, it's to me, like Julian's saying, if you like the guy who's starting for San Francisco tomorrow and Mac Jones, you're gonna love Julian saying. Like that's sort of the dude he is. He's a good game manager. He makes, he's fairly accurate, makes smart throws, but the arm strength isn't what you want from your pocket passer because he's going to float some balls that get him in trouble at the NFL level. He's not going to be able to push the ball downfield consistently, so defenses are going to play up on him.
Right.
It just constricts what the NFL can do, and I don't think he's athletic enough to like be Brock Purdy in that regard, where Brock Purdy is athletic enough to move around, make some things happen, even with that game manager attitude. Sane falls more in that Mac Jones, where he's a good backup. I think that's what he is at the next level. So I'm not that interested in Devy. I understand why people might be, because he probably gets a shot, but it's not really my cup of tea.
Give me Dylan Raiola over him.
Our guy Jamie says, "What's up, JT?" Now I do want to ask, and I'll lead you this with this one, JT. The running backs to Ohio State: C.J. Donaldson, 112 yards; Bo Jackson, 108 yards. Who to you is the Devy asset on that team right now, as far as running backs?
I want Bo Jackson for sure. I want him. Dude, I like what I'm seeing out of him. The fact that him as a true freshman is getting in the mix early has got me even more excited. Peoples, he hasn't been great. I still like him. He hasn't been great to start off. I like C.J. Donaldson as a college player. I don't see him making it to the next level. I think the fact that he's kind of a super senior on this type of team, I think they're leaning on him. I could see him honestly getting slightly more phased out as the season goes on. As Jackson and people start getting more, getting into the system, learning it better. I think they're leaning on the older guy right now just for the maturity issues. But I still like Jackson and Peoples. I'm still in on them. If you gave me all three, I would absolutely take Jackson first. No questions asked. Peoples would be the second guy I'd want, and then Donaldson would be the third guy I want out of those running backs.
Okay, not mad at that. I agree with that. I mean, I think Donaldson's a great CFF asset. One bulkier guy, he's going to get touchdowns. He's going to get playing time. But as far as next level, I don't know. He'll drop into day 3, in my opinion. Now, a quarterback that I feel isn't getting as much love, but is potentially a first-round quarterback, as we're just hitting the kickoff mark here in about under a minute. Luke Altmaier at Illinois, number 9, playing Western Michigan. Altmaier, 513 yards, 6 touchdowns. Western Michigan has a solid running back in Jalen Buckley, 39 carries, 133 yards. Tommy, is Luke Altmaier a first-round draft pick?
No, he's not a first-rounder. He's probably a third-rounder at best, in my opinion. I just don't think he has the intangibles as far as being able to get the ball down the field where it needs to be. I think he's more of a, like what Spencer was saying, he's more of a game manager to me. He's not a big time thrower. And to me, he's just kind of more of a dink and dunk type of guy. You're not going to see a whole lot of really downfield action from him. And to me, in the NFL, that doesn't really work.
Okay.
He has a chance to be one of the all-time legends for Illinois with this season. But I don't know if that. Right. I don't know if that actually pushes him up NFL styles. I'm kind of in my any of my Illinois friends earmuffs, but I like him as a player. I like him as a college player, but man, I just don't see how he is anything more than like a practice squad guy in the NFL eventually. I think maybe you could see a team that we just saw Dylan Gabriel go in the 3rd round, right? So, it's like anything's possible, but I can see somebody taking a shot on him a little bit later. There's some guys I liked last year a lot more than I like Altmaier, and they went in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. So I do think he probably gets drafted, but I do think it's late, and he probably ends up being a practice squad guy who maybe can earn his way into a backup in the NFL.
I will say this: Altmaier is a very smart quarterback. I just don't think he's a great quarterback.
Not toolsy enough.
Sorry, as Oregon's getting kicked off, I'm getting all these notifications here because Oregon's about to dominate. But speaking on quarterbacks, we were talking about Altmaier. 2 quarterbacks. One, I feel most are high on. The other, I feel I'm the highest on. Arkansas, 2-0. goes against Ole Miss, number 17, 2-0. You have Taylor Green, who I feel I'm higher on, 561 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, versus Austin Simmons, 576 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Austin Simmons looking nice. I know Spencer and Tommy y'all both talked about him and what you want to see in that offense. Keelan Lacey running away with it
He's
for
a
Ole Miss,
beast.
246 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tommy, your guy Harrison Wallace, 247 yards off 9 receptions and a touchdown. Omega Blake, you have a name like Omega, you had to be leading. 12 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 185 yards. This game, in my opinion, can be lit up with fireworks. I think this could be a great game on both sides of the ball. We could see big plays happen. We could see some dominance on defense. Both quarterbacks are great in what they do. I feel like they know how to get it down. We're seeing different levels of them. What are our thoughts here, Spencer? I'll start with you. What are your thoughts here? Should Ole Miss run away with it, or do you think Arkansas can pull off an upset?
SC, I'm going to jump in real quick and just tell you that it's sounding like Simmons is not going to play today, as far as
There you
reports
go.
I'm seeing that
Yeah,
he
he's a
could
true
be
game
out and
time
it's going to be
decision.
shameless. So it's game time decision, but it sounds like they're leaning not towards playing, which sucks because I really wanted to see this matchup. I was really kind of fired up to see how both these quarterbacks be, but I just wanted to throw that in there before Spencer gets going.
Yeah, no, he had that. It was a toe issue, I think, which is it's a bummer. I think that makes this a closer game. Although Simmons has been making those freshman mistakes, so to speak, where he's 2 or 3 plays a game, and he's been paying for every single one with an interception.
Sure.
Like the 4 interceptions, he's probably got 4 turnover worthy plays on the year, and it's just the conversion rate is 100% right now. But I think that the key to the game here is whether Arkansas can stop Keelan Lacey. He's already got, I think, 25 missed tackles forced. It's an absurd pace that he's running on. He looks, he was. I know JT is probably like wincing in pain with Lacey going off and looking like potentially the best running back in college right now because he was doing nothing at Miz for 2 seasons. He had flashes as a freshman, was doing nothing last year, dead asset, and now he looks again maybe the best running back in college football. So if Arkansas can stop Lacey, slow down that running, that rushing offense, I think that Arkansas comes away with the win here. At the very least, they're going to cover the spread, which is 6.5 right now. So that, this is a good test for Taylor Green though, because Ole Miss is no slouch on defense. Can he actually run the passing offense he's been running against a good defense? I think that's going to be those two are what I'm really watching here.
Sure. Now I'll ask you, Tommy. Taylor Green, 561 yards, also 192 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown. He's a big focal point for this offense. We saw some flaws last year. It looks like he's getting better at what he's doing as far as slowing down the game. Any thoughts on Taylor Green?
Yeah, this guy is really sneaky. We may be looking at him at the going into draft season as being a potential early day 2 guy, in my opinion. The Colts showed that that teams aren't afraid to take athletic ability when they took Anthony Richardson, 4th overall, and Taylor Green's a better quarterback. I don't know if he's as athletically elite as what Anthony Richardson is, but he's pretty close. And with that being said, if a team is looking for a supremely athletic quarterback that can actually play quarterback, then Taylor Green, is a pretty decent option there, early day 2.
Absolutely.
With how high Milroe went last year, to me, that sells me on Taylor Green. I mean, I think he's a better quarterback than Milroe. And so for Milroe to go in third, I think you could definitely see him as a 2nd, 3rd round pick. To me, just with the size, the athletic ability. Here's the thing. Arkansas is not going to win a ton of games, just they're Arkansas. But, if he can play tough and keep them in games against some of these big-time teams, I think it's going to really push up his stock. For sure. Even if they come out losers, if he's playing tough and keeping them in games against some of these huge SEC teams, I think it's going to help him a lot. I definitely am in on a 2nd, 3rd round pick for him.
He's got a ton of experience, so that That's a big differentiator
Yeah.
between those two guys and him. Is he's got a ton of college experience under his belt now, so he can probably step in and be an NFL starter versus a Richardson who had 10 games and a Milrow who had
Yeah.
14.
Well, not only that, but he's also a heck of a lot better than what Will Levis was. So
Hey, whoa! Let's not shoot on our Xavier High School boys.
Taylor Green hype happening here. Scott actually said he likes Arkansas and Vandy today to at least cover the spread. I have been less with impressed with South Carolina on offense. We're gonna get to South Carolina here in a bit because I know
South Carolina is the most overrated team in the country.
I told you, I'm on Arkansas and Vandy today too, so I agree with Scott. Take the points, boys. Take the points. I think Arkansas and Vandy cover.
We're a few away from talking about Vandy and South Carolina, but that's all right. We already got some bets on there going in. As JT said, he's also in Arkansas and Vandy. But next one, Florida versus LSU. LSU has been looking absolutely dominant. This is my homework for Spencer. I had him have him tune into this game to see what's happening with Lagway. Is the Spire legit? Jaden Ball leading the way for Florida. 197 yards and a touchdown. Still not as explosive. Tommy, your guy, Aaron Anderson, leading the way for LSU. 14 receptions, 172 yards.
Mhm.
Before the season start, I thought this was going to be the game of the week. Last week's loss kicked Florida out the top 25. I understood that. What is your thought here, Tommy? I'll let you start here. Florida at LSU. We both had DJ Lagway as QB1. We both believe it is a Napier problem. DJ Lagway pulls this upset out. What does that mean, or what does that look like for him to be able to pull this upset out?
Well, it's not going to happen. So, we kind of talked about the Clemson offense and the Texas offense really looking stagnant and kind of low pace earlier. Man, this Florida offense is vanilla. There is just, for no reason too. Vernell Brown and Eugene Wilson and J. Michael Sturdivant and Jaden Ball. Lagway has the weapons. They're just not turning them loose for some reason. This is 100% a Billy Napier problem. And if they get blown out today, the way I think they're going to get blown out today, Napier may be run out of town pretty quickly.
Okay. JT, I will let you go on to it then. Let's flip the script. Let's talk about LSU. What is LSU's key to a loss? Like how would they lose? He said this doesn't happen. What would need to happen for LSU to lose this game?
Have you heard of miracles?
I think LSU smokes them.
They don't take.
I really
field.
do. I'm big on LSU today. I think they smoked Florida. It's 7. I saw it down to 6.5. You can grab it at 6.5. Absolutely, jump on it at 6.5. I think you'd have to see just turnovers galore. I think Nussmeier would have to have a horrible game where he's basically setting up Florida in short, yardage all game long for them to get this done. I know I'm one of the last people still out there on Nussmeier. I still like him a ton. I know he doesn't have the, blow your mind traits that a lot of these other guys have, but I just got this feeling. I just watch him. I know he makes some mistakes and he does some things, but that you're like, what is he doing there? But I just think he ends up being a good NFL quarterback. I'm still high on him. If you're in a Devy league with me and you don't like him, trade him to me. I'll take him. I like Nussmeier a lot. Aaron Anderson's been really impressive for me. I really like what I've seen out of him. I think Baron Brown is going to continue to be, as he gets worked in this system. I still like him a ton. He's a lower end Devy asset, but I still got him in some Devy situations. So I like this offense. I think they're going to improve. I think they're going to keep getting better. Nussmeier doesn't have the blow you away stats at the beginning of the year that we maybe thought he would, but I think it's going to get. I think they're going to increase. I still think he's going to be in the mix for the Heisman, and I think LSU is going to be in the mix, especially if their defense plays as well as they did the first couple games. Like that's where they've gotten just buried the last couple of years. Tons of talent, but just couldn't stop anybody. And finally, they look like they might actually be as good as their talent. So to me, I think Florida is going to struggle to move the ball against this LSU team. And even if the offense doesn't play outstanding for LSU, it's going to be tough to see them not winning this game, I think.
I should point out, Spencer, you did say, about Noah Whittington that he was going to be banged up. Jaden Lamar is the RB1 today in Oregon. But speaking of running backs, Jaden Ball, for Florida, 197 yards off 27 carries, 1 touchdown. Caden Durham, 103 yards, 30 carries, 2 touchdowns. Spencer, both of these I feel are Devy assets. Who is higher and why?
I lean the Durham side just because I think there's a much more versatile player there. Jaden Baugh looks like the better running back right now, like just between the tackles, making things happen. But Durham has the pass catching upside. He's got a little more kind of like long speed, explosive play in him. So for those reasons, I lean Durham. But Baugh is definitely climbing up and up and up. He's the only thing that's really working 100% on this Florida offense right now.
Right.
So. But both are, if I could have both, I'd take both.
Fair. Absolutely love it. And let's move on. We have 3 games left in the top 25 here. But on the flip side, a team that is, I feel like this is why I wanted Florida to be. Texas A&M at 16 is 2-0. Marcel Reed is looking superb. Mario Craver is looking great. They're playing against the Fighting Irish, who is 0-1 right now, but also number 8 is CJ Carr and Jadadian Price. Jeremiah Love, we need to see it. Tommy, is this the game we see Jeremiah Love do his Jeremiah Love things and just looks like the RB1 of the class?
Well, if Notre Dame is smart, then they'll give it to him more than 10 times.
True.
There was zero excuse for that a couple weeks ago. I mean, that was the reason that they lost to Miami was they didn't get their best player involved enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how stupid was that? I mean, if that happens again today, then Notre Dame's out of the playoff. Is out of the playoff talk. That'll be their second. They'll start off 0-2. Does anybody think that they're going to win 10 straight to cap off the season?
Right.
with Pitt and USC still on their schedule. But this is totally up to Marcus Freeman and Denbrock and those guys there. Are they going to get their best player involved, or are they just going to kind of do what they did a couple weeks ago and do a bunch of nothing? Because that's what they did. That offense did nothing without Jeremiah Love involved.
Right. Lad, I feel just thinking about it, you seem like you were a little like, I just don't understand why this is happening. You have arguably the best running back in college football, and you did nothing with him. What's going on with that? Now, on the flip side, Marshall Reed's a college quarterback because he is a little bit smaller, but 509 yards, 7 touchdowns through the air, 105 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown there as well. JT, I'll let you talk about Marcel Reed. And even if you want to talk about Mario Craver, 13 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 236 yards. What is this A&M offense doing that is getting you excited for any kind of Devy potential, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, all the talent they've recruited the last couple of years, and you're just like, oh, they go to A&M, they're going to get buried because their offense has been horrible. But there's some light now. Like, they've looked pretty good at the beginning of this year. I was really nervous about Kevin Concepcion because I have him all over the place. And I was like, oh, no, he went to Texas A&M when they first made that transfer. So far, he's looked pretty good there. I think they're finally starting to get it together where some of these Devy assets for A&M, I think, are actually going to maybe come true. I don't get your hopes up too much early on here, but at least I've liked what I've seen out of the offense. It looks like it's going to be productive. Hopefully it keeps going that way. I think A&M, I like A&M to cover in this game today. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I think Notre Dame's on their heels here. Reed has been way better than I thought he was going to be. Craver, like you said, is kind of been a guy that's kind of come out of nowhere there. So I really like what I've seen out of him. The interesting thing is what ends up happening with the run game. I like Moss. Obviously, Owens was a guy a lot of people were on a couple years ago coming off the injury. Do they try to get either of those guys a little more involved? Moss 13 carries, Owens 12 in 2 games, where Reed has 18 already. So, they haven't got the run game going big time. I think they're going to need to lean into that a little bit more against Notre Dame today. But I do like the fact that maybe Texas A&M isn't a dead zone for Devy offensive prospects moving forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there is opportunity there. I actually have Kevin Concepcion and Craver on my team for anytime touchdowns there as well. I do see that as well. the question here. Kyle, appreciate you joining, man. Like and subscribe here because we are live for you every Sunday morning to answer those start sit questions. But I'll ask it here because you did ask it. Kyle asked QJ or Sakir or QJ or Coleman or QJ or Sakir or Coleman. He has Josh Allen. Um, I'm curious. As he made him start two. I'm like he's mentioning
I
the
think
same
it's a
name.
start.
So
Yeah, I think it's a start two question that he
yeah.
asked.
I think he's
So
trying to decide if you double up on the Bills wideouts and go Coleman and
right.
Shakur since he has Josh Allen, or do you mix it up? And if you do mix it up, which Bills guy do you want? Do you want Coleman or Shakur to go with
So I
QJ?
say I hope this is a 16-man league because if that's your start sit question right here, that's a
Yeah.
tough start to the season. But no,
I'd
I'd
probably
go
say
keep,
Shakur if it's me, but
yeah,
that's just my opinion.
I'd sit Shakir also.
Tommy, you agree, sit Sakir?
Yeah, based off last week, I mean Coleman looked like the guy last week. Of course,
Right.
that could easily flip this week. I mean, Shakir was the guy basically all year last year, and then I mean,
Right.
so I mean, does Buffalo have two legit kind of wide receiver twos on their hands?
Right. That's something yet to be seen. We always know Josh Allen's still gonna take things away, just being the runner that he can do as far as scoring touchdowns.
Yep.
Appreciate you liking and subscribing there, Kyle. I do want to tell you, Kyle, every Sunday morning, 90 minutes before kickoff, we are live with multiple people from the FFU answering all your start sit questions. So if you do have any other ones moving forward, on Sunday mornings, we're here for you 90 minutes before kickoff as well. Two more games, as I mentioned, in top 25. This one, you say you're taking Vandy over, or at least the spread. Vandy versus number 11, South Carolina. South Carolina 2-0. Vandy 2-0. Spread is minus 2.5. South Carolina. Or JT, I'll let you start this off because you say you're going to take Vandy in the spread. What are your thoughts on here?
Yeah, I just, Tommy said it earlier. I think South Carolina just right now is one of the most overrated teams in college football. I think they're a good team. Are they number 11? Ugh, that seems really high to me. Vandy is scrappy too. I mean, they just are, man. Diego Pavia, that guy just keeps them in games. I think he plays well today. Alexander has been solid at running back. He's been looking good for them. I do, one of probably my favorite, and I don't know if he ends up playing tight end in the pros, but Eli Stowers right now is probably my favorite tight end Devy asset on this team. I think there's a chance that he has a pretty good game today. He's a little undersized guy. He'd have to be like kind of more of a big slot in the NFL because he's not really big enough to be playing inline in the NFL. But I do like his receiving ability. I think Vandy keeps this one close. The spread has dwindled over time here. It's getting lower, but I took them a little bit earlier when it was a little higher. I just think this is a close game throughout. This feels like a field goal game max to me. I could see either team winning this game. So that's why if I feel like it's a pick 'em game and I can get points, I'm going to get points. That's why I'm on Vandy here. I think it's a field goal game, but I think it's close. Sellers again. We love the intangibles, but he still has to put it all together and look like just like that dominant quarterback. We're just not getting that yet out of him. I think it's hopefully it's coming. It's just not there yet.
Kenneth, we appreciate your support. Kyle, yes, Coleman and QJ, appreciate your support as well. Again, tune in when you can. Jamie, appreciate you tuning in for the first time, man, and liking and subscribing there.
Yeah, we never see him in here.
We'll answer your question here in just a second, but I feel like JT was the median. Now we're going to talk about someone that's not so much into sellers and then someone that is into sellers. Tommy, I'll let you start. Lenora Sellers, Devy prospect, first round potential. Go.
If he learns how to throw the ball, sure. Spencer says he can throw it. I just haven't seen it. That and those weapons around him they don't do him any favors at all. Whenever your best weapon is Nick Harbor, who can't run a route, they have nothing offensively that just makes you sit up and say, "Wow, they're good."
Right.
Like, no, I mean, to me, they don't belong anywhere near the top 10. They're, when they start actually playing somebody, they're going to get exposed because they have no offense. They're relying on punt returns. and that's really where their points have come from. They've had 3 punt returns for touchdowns this year. That's not going to continue.
Yeah.
So I mean, them being exposed could start today against a Vanderbilt team who is much
Gritty.
improved over the last couple seasons. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't see anything special out of South Carolina. I don't see much special out of Sellers other than the fact that he's a good dude and can run the ball.
Correct. Okay. Now, I will say with Vanderbilt, this goes to our point that we were talking about on the Devy DJs on Monday, even the Devy played it on Wednesdays. The SEC is so competitive that the bottom teams are the top ACC teams, right? All that kind of stuff there. Now, let's go on to the flip side of it. Spencer, Lenora Sellers, first round quarterback, Devy prospect. I'll let you go.
Yeah, so I do. So what I'll do is I'll concede. He definitely has been holding the ball a lot this year. I think a lot of that has to do with his weapons. Nobody has been open. Nobody can run a route. You know, you watched the game last week. He's sitting there. He's making a guy miss in the backfield, and then you pan downfield, and everybody's, you know, it's like they got a leash on him. They're just dragging the corner, and you know the safety's down with them because they're not getting anywhere.
Right.
So, I think that's a South Carolina problem in large part. I do think if he doesn't show out this week, we're looking at Sellers more as a 2027 prospect.
Okay.
You know, he is young. He's the same age as DJ Lagway. You know, I think they're a month apart birthday wise.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, you know, kind of early into college. He's still very young. I think maybe a 2027 guy. If he doesn't show out this week, again, we got a quarter of the season down. He hasn't really stepped up. But that said, he's got such that like cerebral type of nature to him, that leadership ability in the room. He has the raw traits. You know, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's great throwing off platform. He showed it down the stretch last year, where it just clicked. He started to throw a little quicker. You know, I don't know if he's a slow starter or, you know, kind of like Joe Burrow, where you know you're going to have a bad few weeks and then he's going to take off. Or is it just this year, you know, the weapons look less good? Is it a South Carolina problem? But the defense is legit there. I think that's going to carry them pretty far. You know, Dylan Stewart is probably one of the best young guys in all of college football. You know, on the defensive side there. So that's sort of my take. Is I think Sellers is still a first round guy. He's shown enough this year where I think, you know, we see some mild improvement. He's getting the ball out a little quicker. He's making his reads a little bit better. He's putting the ball on his guys. I mean, he's had a couple really egregious drops, some in the end zone. But it hasn't been as pretty as you'd want it to be either against lesser competition.
No, absolutely. I think there's upside there for him, but I think that's what is upside. If you like your Anthony Richardson shares without knowing it, Sellers someone take that. I do think he can become better than
Sellers
what
is a lot
Richardson.
He's
Sellers
so
is
much
a lot
better
smarter.
than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying though. Like the upside though is like you take the upside in Richardson. That's what you're gonna be doing right now in Sellers because he hasn't necessarily done what we want to see as far as a winner quite yet, which is what we're still hoping Anthony Richardson becomes to do. Sellers does have the tangibles though and the athleticism to be something special, like we thought Anthony Richardson was due to the athleticism, right? So there is opportunity. So right now, I don't know if you take it at that, you're taking hype right now compared to what we're actually seeing on the field, which is what you ended up doing with Anthony Richardson. I do think there's more upside with Sellers there as well. Kenneth, I do see your question. JT, I appreciate you answering it because we will answer that here in a sec. Our last game, though, I want to talk about the Utah Utes number 20 against Wyoming Cowboys. Utah looking nice, but are they just a defensive team? We got John Henry, 3 sacks, multiple sacks, or a sack in each game so far. Is there anyone really Devy-wise that we're looking for on here? JT, I'll let you start. Utah and Wyoming. Any Devy assets?
This is interesting. Utah's kind of they're a sneaky team that some of these guys could end up kind of popping off a little bit. Dampier's an interesting guy. Is he just going to be a college guy that looks really good, or can he kind of step it up? I don't know. I like Sean Parker. He's getting in my realm where I'm liking him a lot more as far as a Devy asset. He's probably the top guy I have my eye on. I do think that Dampier is just improving. Like, I didn't think he would be ever a guy I would think for the NFL. I still think he's on the fringes, but he's a guy I'm keeping an eye on. I just think the way he plays, he's just a little too small for the NFL. Like, he's a good runner, but he's not very big. He's going to take a ton of hits. Like, I don't know if I love it, and I don't know if he's the type of athlete that like a guy like Kyler Murray is, who's super small but can like still make it because he's just a supreme athlete. But he's definitely a guy I want to keep an eye on. I like him. I've got him everywhere in CFF leagues. I got him in a ton of C2C leagues just in case I really like his college production. But like I said, I just think he might end up being another side guy. But Parker's the one guy I think if somebody busts on this team, I think it's going to be Parker.
There you go. Tommy, any different thoughts there?
Yeah, don't sleep on John Michael Gillenborg either, tight end out of Wyoming. Yeah. He's one of the top tight ends in the country, and I think he has a real shot to be a pretty good NFL tight end.
Spencer, any other thoughts there?
No, I like the Dampier shout out. I think he's looked really good, and Wayshawn Parker probably is the more sure Devy asset, kind of your later, maybe like 10 roster kind of guy. You want to get him on there. I'm not sure he's in the 5 to 7 range yet, but he could work his way up there this year. But Dampier is definitely a guy to keep an eye on because he could be your electric quarterback. We didn't really think of him as a passer, and he's looked really good so far this year. Multiple touchdown passes in both games. I think he only did that once last year. So, we're off to a good start.
Yeah, and he's been at like nearly 80% completion percentage, which, last year we were like, oh, man, if he completes 55 to 60, you were like ecstatic. You were ecstatic on that. So the fact that his completion percentage is up now, they haven't had a super tough schedule, but I mean, 38 of 48 for the year, right under 80% has been real solid. And he's been right around 200 yards passing a game, which Spencer said, like last year you were like getting the running production, hoping you got anything in the passing game. And he's actually been a much better passer this year.
Yeah. Did he get over 100 yards and had a touchdown this week? That's a win. This year it's been a different story. So good to see that level up, so to speak.
Utah's always a tough contender. I mean, they always have a strong defense. They always end up pulling off some upsets. So they're always someone that's worth watching. That concludes our top 25. We had 2 questions in here that I will get to, and then I'll let y'all go here. Jamie does ask, he has May, Herbert, Fields, and next in Dynasty Superflex. Which one would you sell? JT, you kind of already answered with Fields here, so I'll let you start off. Why are you saying sell Fields when you have this quarterback arsenal here?
If I'm selling one, I'm selling the high upside of Fields right now. Again, I think he's been good, but if the Jets end up stumbling, are they going to keep it around long term? So I think Fields, as far as the short term sell, is the best. If you have somebody that absolutely loves Knicks, that's where I could see myself selling Knicks for a bigger haul. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the fence there. Like short term, I'm probably selling Fields just because I think those other 3 are long term better Devy assets. For me, if you could get a haul, somebody loves Knicks, and you could get maybe a couple first or another good player in return for him, I could see myself selling Knicks for a bigger package than Fields.
Okay. Now I'll flip it to you, Tommy. When it has those quarterbacks, Drake May, Justin Herbert, Fields, and Bo Nix in a Dynasty Superflex, which one are you selling?
Honestly, I'm probably selling Drake May. I just don't think he has the proper weapons around him that they're going to make him successful long term. But if you want to go off kind of past history, then I'm probably selling Fields just because coming off a good game, you may be able to get a little bit for him based off what his rushing upside is. Being on the Jets, I just don't trust that offense is going to sustain what they did against Pittsburgh. So one of those 2 are probably who I'm moving off of. May based off of name value and Fields based off of history.
Absolutely love it. Now I'm gonna flip it over to you, Spencer. Out of those 4, who are you selling?
Yeah, I'm gonna, just because I want to mess with Jamie, I'm going to say Justin Herbert, so he has no answer here. No, I lean like Fields. I honestly don't know if I'd sell any of them. Like, if you can afford to hold them, I would hold like Fields is going to be a great plug and play guy this year, and then you know you have your stable of 3 going forward that have job security. But if you absolutely have to sell one of them, I lean Fields because you're going to get somebody who's going to pay big. But if you're trying to win this year and you don't want to necessarily give a contender a guy who's going to go off for potentially 25, 30 points a game,
Right.
then I'd probably sell Drake May. I think, Jamie just commented that is it Dynasty QB7, so you won't get that value. I think you can. I think you can even get higher. There are people who think May is, top 5 in the NFL.
Right.
And they're just waiting on that one weapon. So I think that
waited a long
May's a
time.
good one to sell because he hasn't necessarily shown what his value actually is. He's looked pretty good. He looks like a very good NFL quarterback. He probably lasts a long time in the league, but you can get really good value for him. He's not necessarily going to contribute to you winning this year, and you can get a guy who's going to contribute and future value, all packaged in one. And I feel like Fields has probably shown enough where he'll always have a place in the NFL. He's going to linger for a long time.
No, I agree with that. Tommy brings up a good point with May. I think that's very interesting there, especially if we're waiting on some assets there. Phil, though, I think is your sell high right now. I think Knicks may have the highest value based on last year, but they also have a running game this year finally. So Knicks isn't going to have that same upside there. So I leave May, then Fields, and probably Knicks. Herbert, I think you want to just keep him. I think he's your safest bet. Our last question before we head out here. Kenneth tuned in a little bit later, but he asked us, how are you feeling about Carson Beck for Devy? I know you kind of hit on that there for him, JT. By saying we discussed Carson Beck, Philly's decent Devy prospect who has first round capability. Carson Beck, though, I mean, I don't think any of us have him in the first maybe 2 rounds of our Devy boards. So that's top 24 potentially. But is there hope for him? Do you think he's a first round prospect? Tommy, I'll let you answer this one for Kenneth here.
Yes. Can I lean closer to my microphone to say that? Again, if he can get over just being kind of just an idiot, at times, the good version of Carson Beck is elite. So if he can find the consistency to be good more often than not, then he's an elite Devy asset. Just because all the tools are there.
Right.
He's got the cannon for an arm. He's got whenever he's on his game, he's got great vision. He sees the field well, and he can run a little bit too. So in my opinion, the tools say yes. And the good version of Carson Beck again is elite.
Okay, Spencer, agree or disagree with that?
I feel like he's okay. The ADOT still isn't there. He's not pushing the ball downfield. He's getting it out quick, getting it to his playmakers' hands, and letting them do most of the work. So I kind of want to see him just get back to going downfield a little bit more. He hasn't shown us that. He's not much of a rusher. So if he's going to make an impact for our teams, then he needs to make big plays happen with his arm. I'm a little worried about kind of settling into like the late 20s range once he hits, which is better than a quarterback who doesn't do anything for you, but isn't much better than, a QB3 on your roster. So it kind of depends on what you want. He's definitely playing his way early into a safe bet to be drafted again, which I think is more than we can say coming into the year where we were looking maybe around, day 3. But I would, I think he's a wait and hold still for me, where I'm not dropping him off my Devy rosters if I've held him this long. But I'm also not super excited yet. And if somebody is super excited for him already, I'd sell to that person personally.
Fair. JT, any other thoughts? I know you kind of gave your answer there in the chat. But
Yeah. Just I kind of agree with Tommy. I think the high upsides there. If people are out on him because of last year, I think I would be willing to buy him at this point if he's fairly cheap. Because I think there are some people who are completely out on him at this point, and I do think there is that upside that he could still be a possible late first rounder, a guy that, at least is a day 2 guy. So I'm still in on him. If I have him, like Spencer said, I'm holding him unless somebody loves him and wants to give me a bunch for him. I don't know if I'd have many people like that in my leagues. But I also, if I have some haters who are just like, I'm out on Carson back, then I would be willing to go trade for him if I could get him for a decent price because I do think the upside's there.
I think the NFL teams will like him more than what will like him as a Devy prospect. For that reason, I think there's opportunity to sell him if you have him because there is potential that NFL teams take him as a first round pick. Just like Drew Aller, doesn't mean I'm necessarily in on them, but you have to consider that when you're looking at it. If NFL teams are you're seeing that they're starting to him as that first round pick, I don't know if I'm necessarily buying that value, but I would definitely sell that value if that makes sense there.
I think, me personally, I think Beck is a better value than what Drew Aller is.
I agree.
I think he has better tools.
I agree. I think there's a lot of hype with him earlier on, and it kind of faded away. He should have came out last year, not necessarily stayed, but it could be something special there. JB, yes, we're gonna lead it off here. We do have our FFU roundtable. Some of our other guys are jumping in there as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe for all our viewers here. We appreciate all the support every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. with special guests. We'll be here to talk the top 25 matchups of college football. And then Sunday mornings, 90 minutes before the first football kickoff for the NFL, we're here to answer all of your start and sit questions there as well. So we appreciate everyone joining in. JT, I'll let you plug in. Where can people find you in your work?
If you want to look at my rankings, my Devy rankings are top 75 are on DLF. If you're into IDP, I have my top 150 IDP rankings also on DLF. If you are a member over there, check it out. I should be up posted now is my first round mock draft for 2026. Nice. First 1 through 12 picks who I think are going to go next year. So that's articles up there as well. You can check that out. And then if you're looking for me on podcasts, I jump on here with you guys whenever I can. I also do the Dynasty evaluation with John and Glenn. Check that out when you get a chance. A bit behind on that one, but there. And then Wednesday nights, Fantasy and Frames. You can get me on Dynasty 365 talking Dynasty Talk. And then Shoot the Gap is our IDP show. So you can check me out there talking IDP as well.
There you go. Tommy, I know we have our show Monday nights, Devy DGens every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. But for people looking for Devy value, what's the best place for them to go to get some good trade advice on Devy value, Tommy?
Yeah, head on over to Dynasty Trade Calculator. SC and I, we update our rankings there quite often. We update the values there quite often, and you're able to kind of use that as a tool to judge what somebody's Devy value is compared to even NFL guys.
Yes, sir. And don't forget, if you are going to Dynasty Trade Calculator, use promo code DGEN, DEGEN. Get your first month free just to check it out there. Spencer, I'll let you say some words here because you are my co-host for the Devy Planet every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. And then we come in, here talking ball every Saturday morning as well. Any last thoughts for the Devy Planet or the FFU tuning in?
No, come in and catch us. I mean, we're picking up steam. You got the Devy Times coming out every week now. Shout out SC who works his butt off, making sure that looks fresh. We got the right headlines. Our rankings are up to date. I've been slacking in that regard, so I got to get those rankings up to date because, certain Oregon player, running back, maybe shouldn't be on there anymore. But we got, and we have a lot of content coming to you from the FFU. We got our roundtable here in about 20 minutes. We got every Sunday morning, we got the start sit questions, which we're going to be working to hop in every once in a while. But, anything college, come to us. Anything NFL draft, come to any of us. Anything NFL, I mean, you can also come to any of us, but especially shout out, our guy FF Rebel doing the just the ranks there. And, you can always hop in the Discord and ask, and we'll answer any questions. So
there you
go. Jesse can always answer too. He's always on that start sit show. Start sit show. Start shit would be that'd be a whole new ball game. No, so hop on and we'll answer any questions. So we're always here for you.
For everyone joining in, we appreciate it. For our guy JT at JT Ors, for our guy Tommy Harvey at Tom Harvey Sports, and my co-host at Buckwild Sports, Spencer. We are the Devy Planet. We are your Devy experts. Come to us. The FFU is here for you back in another 20 minutes or so to go over the roundtable, just answering generic questions for you in the fantasy football realm. Multiple experts from the FFU are joining that. And again, tomorrow morning, 90 minutes before kickoff, the start sit show will be happening for y'all to answer all your questions before your lineups, making sure you are all set and ready to go Very well. We appreciate you joining in. Till next time.
FFU. FFU.